Today we're going to talk about SpaceX and why I think it might be the most valuable company on planet Earth. Okay, not now, but soon. Okay, what's going on with this camera angle? Right, so what is the thing? What is the equation changing factor with SpaceX? Gold is worth a fair amount of money, isn't it? However, there would be no point mining gold on Mars, even if the mining process was as simple as picking it up and putting it in your spaceship in ready-made ingots created by some long-gone Martian civilization, and it would make no difference whatsoever. There is no way you could build an economic case for doing that, because the cost of getting the weight back from Mars is greater than the value of the weight that you're transporting. It's a bit crazy, isn't it, if you think about it, when transport costs are so high that it's actually not worth picking up gold ingots. And that's something that I believe SpaceX will be able to fix in the future with their reusable rockets. When that is fixed, I believe that that is going to herald the start of proper space exploration. And I also think that the company that gets there first, that really nails down all those problems and gets to the point where they can just go, we add a few 100,000 gallons of kerosene and liquid oxygen and we can get something to Mars. That's the important point here. The ability to just add fuel and then go where you want in the solar system is such an unbelievably different concept to what currently happens, where you have to add fuel plus rocket. So the rocket is almost part of the fuel. It's expendable. It gets burnt up in the process of actually getting from A to B, which would be fine if rockets cost the same amount as pencils, but they don't. They cost an enormous amount of money. So take, for example, United Launch Alliance. They seem to be following quite happily in the footsteps of car makers following Tesla, as an analogy. In other words, they're planning this Vulcan rocket, which is going to have reusable engines. The idea is that the sort of engine module will pop off the bottom and come down safely on a parachute and get scooped up and reused, because that represents a significant proportion of the booster's value. I can see where they're going with that as a concept, because if they do that, what it'll mean is that they get partial reusability on the booster 100% of the time, unlike SpaceX, where they get 100% reusability, but they only get it when the payload to orbit is low enough that landing the thing, the booster, is actually still feasible. But this is the interesting thing though, right? United Launch Alliance is basically building for the past. It takes no account of where SpaceX will be as a competitor in 3-4 years time. I mean, typically you might think to yourself, it's going to be impossible for SpaceX to build an entire rocket in the length of time that United Launch Alliance builds its Vulcan. I would not be at all surprised if the BFR actually flies before the Vulcan. The potential is there for SpaceX to become almost a kind of like sci-fi-like corporation eventually, that sort of spans the globe and is in charge of everything. I'm not saying that this is the future I'm hoping for, obviously, but I actually think the potential is there, because I think the economic benefits that come from properly opening up space are not understood yet. I mean, how can they be understood yet? Because we haven't yet done it. Imagine if you could put 20 tons in space for a couple of $1 million instead of a couple of $100 million. Totally 100% crazy, game changer. There's more I want to say on SpaceX, but I'll have to finish this off at home, because I need to get back. Yeah, we'll wrap this up in a minute. Time to head home. I feel like I've been relatively productive. Oh. Actually, that's not true. I do not feel like I've been productive. So there's two massive advantages that SpaceX has with its full reusability, when it achieves full reusability. Firstly, if you're not going to throw the rocket away, then it becomes possible to build something much, much bigger and have that be economically sensible to do, because that is the problem with disposable rockets. It artificially limits how big you want to build them, because, you know, you got to get rid of them. So if it costs as much and is the size of, say, an aircraft carrier, then that is an awful lot of material and manpower and time that you have to throw away on a regular basis. So it really doesn't matter how much you can launch or how efficient such a big vehicle is, because, you know, it goes in the bin. However, if you could reuse it, well, we build aircraft carriers, so clearly there's no barrier to us building something that big. And the other side of the coin is, if you can't reuse things and it costs a huge amount of money to launch anything to space, then you have to be really, really careful with what you launch, which means you can't really give things a try. Now, take interplanetary missions, for example. At the moment, the way they're done, for the most part, is to just expend a huge amount of rocket fuel, chemical reaction that is providing the impulse for those vehicles. However, if you were to move to, say, an ion drive type technology, then you would have about, I think it's something like a 30th as much propellant needed, but you do have to put in a huge amount of energy as well, because the propellant doesn't contain its own energy, and also you actually have to give it quite a long time in order to let the thing accelerate. But what would be interesting to find out is if we can build an ion engine or ion engines which are powerful enough to basically replace chemical rockets in terms of getting from, say, Earth to Mars orbit, which at the right time of the year is going to take anything between 3 and 9 months. Well, that is quite a long time. So we have got time to run an ion engine for a fair amount. You know, it doesn't have to be over and done in 5-10 minutes, as it does when you launch from the surface of Earth into low Earth orbit. I think there's a huge amount of potential there, but all of this potential is just totally unrealizable unless you've got full rapid reusability, as Elon Musk keeps going on about. But I think he's completely right. I think there are some very exciting times ahead on this front, and it will be interesting if somebody in 100 years' time watches this video and goes, yeah, that's right, SpaceX own everything now. They could do, you know. Don't underestimate the benefit of being able to bring gold back from Mars in an economically sensible fashion. I think we're a long way off being able to do that in an economically sensible fashion, but it should be possible because gold is very expensive compared to rocket fuel. Time to go get Jasper very shortly. Where has the time gone today? I know what I need. Coffee. Well, I've just had a nice run. I think actually, because I've completely failed to finish the editing, which means that I've got an extra day to shoot this video, I think I'm going to finish it off tomorrow. Plus, Sophie's come back way early from work, so it'd be nice to see her for a little bit. See you tomorrow. Bye, Pumpkin. Have a good day at work. Bye. Sophie takes Jasper to school on Friday mornings usually. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right.
Oh.
So my day yesterday was thrown into utter disarray because I watched a video from the Everyday Astronaut, which is quite a fun channel actually, and he does a lot of bits on SpaceX and stuff like that, and he was trying to demonstrate how difficult it is to recover a second stage. And he did that using the Kerbal Space Program, which is a game that I didn't know existed. Hello, welcome to 5 Days in the Future. Let me show you what I mean by Kerbal Space Program and the fact that it has just basically eaten up the whole of the last 5 days. I've had a little space holiday basically. Look at this behemoth. Nice, nice. And it flies reasonably well as well, and it's got a little lander so I can land on the various moons. Quick warning though, this game just eats up time. It's really great fun, but it is time consuming and really difficult to put down once you pick up. Basically you just get to run your own space program for these little Kerbal creature things. It's good fun. It's pretty realistic from a physics point of view as well. See you later. Right, time to nip out and do a bit more shopping. What I often wind up trying to do with these SpaceX videos is I'm trying to instill my enthusiasm in people, because I think a lot of people are not quite as enthusiastic as they should be about SpaceX. It is an incredible organisation doing things that most people thought and continue to think in some cases are impossible. Of course, doing the impossible seems to be Elon Musk's favourite trick, but it still doesn't take away from how impressive an achievement it is. Okay, I managed to get back before the free parking ran out. That's why I like skateboards. Just cram more into your 30 minutes free parking. Righty, let's get back to talking rockets. What would I like SpaceX to do in the future? Well, I mean, I think in a lot of ways they're doing the right thing, but what I'd like to see is for them to say, even more unequivocally than they have already said, we are planning on going to Mars, that is what this is about, it is not about dividends, etc. And then do an IPO. Because I think there are enough people in the world who believe in SpaceX and believe in their mission that they would get a very substantial amount of capital with which to accelerate the development of the BFR. And that's, I think, where it really is at, because that, in theory, should be fully reusable. That's what they're working towards. I hope one day to have the opportunity to invest in SpaceX, although at the moment it's kind of not possible because it's a privately owned business. One of the world's most valuable privately owned businesses as it stands at the moment. But I genuinely think the potential is there for this business to be worth more than any other business on planet Earth or off planet Earth. Right. I'm gonna have a panini, coffee, get Jasper, edit, the usual. So I hope you've enjoyed today's vlog post and found it interesting. If you have, remember to like it, share it, subscribe if you haven't already, follow me on Instagram if you don't already, and I will see you tomorrow for the next installment of my daily vlog. Bye! This is hilarious. People wonder why Elon Musk's businesses, SpaceX and Tesla, can react so quickly. Check this out. There's this whole delete Facebook thing because of the Cambridge Analytics. Point is, somebody tweeted Elon Musk saying, "Are you going to delete your pages then?" And 2.5 minutes later, SpaceX and Tesla pages deleted from Facebook.